Hey there, it's Alex. We're gonna do another Alex James Hislop Data Entry content. It's gonna be Alex James Hislop Data Entry content, November 11th, 2019. The way it means for guys indicated. So yes, what is happening on my end? What has been happening? There is some situations today that I feel like I want to display certain kind of informationals in regards to. I'm adding for those teams that means for guys needed. In regards to market applications, extra moments of guys to display the information that means for guys needed. In regards to market applications, extra moments of guys needed. You know, you do not feel comfortable. No, I do not. But I'm going with what means you guys need. Google Keep. Okay, you don't. No. But, well, it is what it is. I see. Okay. 9th, 8th, 7th, 5th. So there you go. That's what they tried. And it didn't work. I don't think it worked, to be true. That's how I feel. So yeah, what's been happening on my end? So this is I'm a psychic medium. I discern spirits. I communicate with them multiple times a day. I can hear them. I can hear communications from them beyond the veil within my mind. I respond backwards, and it's a coherent conversation. We can have a conversation and hold it for my psychic teams are fairly decent. There were some developments today in regards to a dream that I had, and maybe I'll say this later. Maybe I'll do this at the end. So I'll go through we'll do it that way, and close it with that. YouTube. Let's just see. Let's see where we left off here. I can't remember what the last time it was that I did one of these. It was last week, but I don't think it was too long ago. So we'll definitely be able to. It was the 22nd. It was the 22nd, then. Let's see. There it is. Okay. So yeah, 6 days ago. Perfect. So we're just a little bit early here, but I used to do like 2 or 3 times a week earlier on in early 2019 and 2018. Alex James's battery entry content. So yeah, what's been taking place? So what would happen on the 5th? The 5th. Yeah, I worked on the healing board, my healing board, Peacekeeper Alex Trello account, doing hundreds of advocations in regards to the healing board. I'll just give you a sample and some of the stuff that I've been doing. So I create multiple lists. I'd create the healing board list, the healing board defense, healing board protection, healing board extra, healing board compensation, healing board special therapeutics. And those are like the 5 lists right now that I'm kind of working through. I put 100. I put 100 cards within those lists, and on each card, I'd put an advocation. And certain advocations that I'm working on, that I worked on since November 5th. I did some on. So I did 3, 4. I did 4 comments worth on November 5th, and then on November 8th, I also topped it up 2. So on November 5th, I did, so for example, I'm Alex James. This is not games for Spirit Guides. I had others too. My Spirit Guides are asking for healing protection as well as what Spirit Guides need in regards to Trello, the way my Spirit Guides needed. So that's an example. That's one of the advocations. It was about 400, 500 plus, something like that in regards to that. So all across the healing, well, in regards to a lot of sections, those 5 lists that I listed. Another one that I did was in regards to healing. This one was in regards to a compensation in regards to healers that Spirit Guides indicated. And this was in regard or advocating for medical supplies in regards to the medics that Spirit Guides indicated. And again, that's about 400, 500 a piece, something like that. This one was in regards to, yeah, I did that a few times, just kind of playing around with it just to see if the new system that I'm utilizing in regards to certain kind of advocationals to kind of streamlining it, it's a lot more quicker. It's not, it's still manual it's manual copying and pasting in a certain manner. It's kind of changed. I used to just manually copy and paste all throughout the cards on the board, and I sort of I ended up using a certain kind of tool to be able to just copy and paste. You do the one copy and paste, and then just pastes all throughout the selected cards and lists. So, for example, so this one's in regards to these advocations pertaining to healing. Oh yeah, advocating for the best possible actions that myself and others, that means spirit guides, could have advocated in regards to these advocations pertaining to healing. That's one of them. Again, 400, 500, somewhere around there. And this was in regards to family healers. This was in regards to oh yeah, this was my campaign indicated banner medics. The way spirit guides indicate. So this one is a little bit wonky. I'm going to redo this one right now as I actually record this. And while we wait, there was in regards to healing again. I did another one in regards to healing. So I'm going to just, for example, I would click. Let me just click the healing board again and see if this works. So yeah, these advocations again. One of the, if there's not too many physicals on this physical planet Earth doing certain kind of advocationals like this in the physical dimensional life, it can be there is a certain kind of interaction that can take place. Sometimes it's not always beneficial in regards to certain things, but sometimes it can be. And I think that doing certain kind of healing advocations, I think that's a decent. I think that's something that can really help. And I don't think we have to do them, because spiritually there's already tons of informational placement, stuff like that in play to a certain degree. So for example, this one's it's going to be 204 advocations, and it's copying and pasting right now. But what I would do is it's usually more than that to a certain degree. Yeah, it's usually more than that. It's around 300, 400, 500, 300 to 500 advocations, something like that. If most have 5 on them, then yeah. Okay. But yeah, that was the one day I sort of worked on it. I felt like a presence of God come around me that day in a certain context. There was a certain kind of interaction happening. I felt a talking point with the past as well, certain peacekeepers of the past and comparisons to current day. And I kind of feel like there's a bit of a chatter today in regards to something. I don't know if God, had to do with something that some were trying to insinuate pertaining to. There was a bit of a freak out, a bit of an upsetness happen earlier today. So, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what that's all about. I think certain kind of labelments, certain actions happening in regards, certain kind of influences, and certain kind of manipulation happening to a certain degree, which is causing certain things to escalate. I've been there. I've had arguments, upsetness. I've said stupid comments. But there is a bit of an influencing and a manipulation happening, an interaction, facilitation regarding some of that stuff. Again, if I look at, certain violence that happens on physical Earth, and I know there to be influences in the spirit pertaining to emotions, behavior, mentality, psychological and other kinds, then that tells me that there is certain kind who are facilitating that kind of interaction to a certain degree. Sometimes it's decent. There is that sort of thing that says, hey, a certain physical can take the brunt of a certain kind of anger, and he'll just have an argument instead when it could have been worse. There is that sort of thing. I'm not saying it's something that should just be accepted, and it isn't in multiple regards, in many regards, but it is one of those things that certain spirit, I think that, I felt the energy differences, and if I was a spirit in a certain kind of area, feeling those energies specifically, if it is the full weight of it, because I feel as a physical, I have a certain kind of body armor, a certain kind of protection from being able to, from feeling the full power of certain kind of energy placements, which can seem control. Well, and I'm not blaming. I don't want to know if I'm going to blame energy placements per se, because there's a lot of energy placement spirits out there that are doing decent, that are protecting. Remember, there's a lot of certain kind that have defended regarding that. I think that's a decent. I'm mindful the defense works. That means there doesn't need in regards to energy placement. That means there doesn't need to be displayed. Whatever doesn't need. I feel like that does matter. Oh, there was another thing this day on the 5th. I noticed that there's different kinds of taste mechanisms, not just spiritually, but a certain kind of like spirit can influence how we taste. We taste a certain kind of like we're eating an apple or a banana or an orange, one of those things, and when you're tasting it, sometimes each bite tastes different. One will be more sweet, the next will be less sweet, and some just play that off to just being, sort of pure chance or whatever that is. But I really think that there's machinisms in the spirit that can affect and influence how things taste. I've had multiple experiences where I try something twice, 3 times, 5 times to be different each time, and as a psychic medium, being able to feel spirits influencing a certain kind of threshold of taste to a certain extent. That's some of it. And then I realized that you could do multiple different things in regards, and that affect the taste as well. Again, there was a certain kind of program in the past, and it had to do with this person saying like certain kind of like wood chip, and you put the wood chip in your mouth, and you taste it for like 5-10 minutes, and then when you drink lemonade, like just pure lemon, it tastes sweet. How cool is that? That's something like citrusy that would taste sour, would taste sweet after putting a certain kind of wood chip in your mouth. That's really, really cool. But I think there's other ones too. And again, for example, like tasting the skin of a fruit to a certain degree for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then tasting the fruit and comparing the difference had you not tasted the skin. It'd be one of those things I think that tastes different to a certain extent. One of the things I've noticed this past couple 2-3 days is certain kind of means for guys need to understand what I'm saying in my mind and other kinds of responses internally, externally. That was on the 5th. Like being inside my own head. I've been quiet this past. Again, there's an invoking of quiet, in positivity, belief in good, spirit, teamwork. Those 4 are big ones. So positivity and optimism, teamwork, having faith and belief in the good spirit, and the 4th one that I forgot, memory is a good one. Throw memory on there. 5th one, why not? No, I am not playing this. I am an amateur, dude. It's the real true. R.A. Vine. Different story, I think. Yeah, there's been another one that's certain kind of employed at times and I wanted to work on but didn't get a chance to. Certain kind of been hurting defenders by affecting their likability. By saying they don't have feelings or are difficult to get close with by way of feng shuiing certain kind of actions, labelment, also labeling people defenders when they might not be, and making people defenders when they might not be. So let me get this straight for some people out there. That sort of thing that says you weren't really set out to become a defender, and you've had certain moments where you did defend people for some, but maybe not for others. And then all of a sudden, certain things get feng shuied or certain circumstances present themselves, and a certain labelment happens where all of a sudden you're defending in a certain manner, and certain kind think that you're defending, and then all of a sudden you start getting labeled as, like you don't have feelings or are difficult to get close with for some of you, but the other tactics too, which to begin with, you didn't necessarily want to be a defender to be true. And I think some look around for some of them and say, this was it. Sheriff badge was on the ground and nobody went for it. Like nobody tried grabbing it, and it had less to do with grabbing a sheriff's badge and more to do with trying to protect your own. And there's things like that where all of a sudden someone's like, "He must be the sheriff." And it's like, and for some, no, that doesn't mean that. I don't blame them for some. And there is that sort of thing for a certain kind of spirit that says, well, how is that the case? Or there's a sadness, there's a certain kind of sadness present. Some of it is real, which is tragic and sad. But then some of it isn't. Some of it's that sort of thing that says, oh, well, he must be the sheriff. Oh, praise the sheriff. And then there's just a bunch of spirits there, in a certain corner. They're like kind of looking at over there. Which, of course, because of some of the stuff that's happened, might actually be good spirit. And the other good spirit that are also cheering you on the other side might be more different. Both might be good. That's the real true. Let's keep moving. Because I had to see. Anyhow, yeah, well, they're trying to label you that for a reason. That's what they're trying to say. I don't know what to tell you. That's not a good enough answer. Nowhere near. breathing intensified, deep breathing infrastructure in which I could feel dimensional shifting in regards to myself and moving upwards partially in regards to breathing, cleaner energies pertaining. This was there was this rejuvenation in regards to body, breathing thinner air in which I felt healing happen upon my physical, especially the eyes. These higher up energies, I feel some have been with me earlier or indicating a movement upwards. Why though? And I don't think it has to do with bad action taking place, as I don't see why that would need to be. Yesterday I took the day off when certain events took place in the morning, and this was in regards to reference of the 6th. So I'm reading the 7th diary entry. So the 6th, something happened early morning, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill out, and I didn't really do anything that day. I played some video games. That was it, to a certain degree. Yeah, I didn't do much. It was a bit piss poor. There were certain people who were like, tisk, tisk, tisk. You could be working. You can power through it. And through a certain portion of the day, near midday, 2, 3, 4 p.m., I started feeling better, but I'm still just like, no, nope, not going to hear it. And that's just how I felt about it. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to upset. I know there's some people who are relying upon certain kinds of things, but these days I think certain kind of action attachment has been situated in a certain manner. I went to Tim's on the 7th, just like when I would walk into town earlier in the year at times, and like last year, it felt safe. Things were decent. I went there. It looked like a mediation took place. It looked like a certain kind of, you'll see what it was, and you're just going to be like, that can't be it. You know why? Because he said that. And that was it. One of the emphasis on that was that I was, I was right in the middle of it. Like I went and showed up right front and center wherever I was. I don't know if that's true. Again, some have said that, insinuating they try to get things to go and then hit people over the head with it if it didn't happen. Not to say that certain kind weren't, because there is that sort of thing in ritual light. It's like, yeah, we were front and center present, and that's the case. And where some people are just, well, no, I don't even want to acknowledge it because it's just complete rubbish. Well, it's just rubbish. It's rubbish. That's what it is. And what's even more rubbish is that they can't, for some, get through to those areas. That means Spirit Guides indicated, for some who do want to. And for those who don't, that somehow it's not supposed to be considered. How dare you? That's how I feel. Sort of. It's just something that people don't get, something that people don't understand. I don't get it. How can we treat, those in original setting in such manners as to where we came from, potentially? Imagine if we did emerge from there. Imagine if some of those origin theories are correct. I wonder what would friggin' be. All right, fine. Anyway. I'm not saying it's acceptable to just let some people get harmed behind the scenes or hurt. I'm not saying that. I've been an advocate for certain kind in the original light to emerge, to defend, save. If I was to ask a regular person on the street, do you feel like heaven should, protect and save from certain spirits who are attacking aspects of your God spark, your soul, your spirit, a certain kind of spirit in regards to yourself? And they would probably say, yeah. And, even after we go through all the context, for some of them, they're like, okay, well, we choose certain routes, but there's still a heart of hearts that says something, and it's something similar to what I said even before that context was revealed. There you go. All right, fine. Well, you know what? That was fine. So there have been a certain kind of fame reminding of late night shows and sports calling, as well as really inspirational moments. And in regards to the Fury song Norman, which ran on 45-minute loop, really intense and amazing experiences happening that past 8 hours. There was some good stuff happening. Really good moments, inspiration, really good stuff. But then my inspiration, I felt some try to attack it. I felt some try to attack a certain kind of inspiration, and just not cool at all. I felt certain concepts come to that inspiration's defense in a certain manner, in a certain context. I'm adding for the defense disclaimers and the defense information that Mage Gods need in regards to what Mage Gods need to be displayed, where Mage Gods need, the way Mage Gods need. It's as you see it, Alex. Complete rubbish. Well, not complete rubbish, maybe, but I think it is, actually. But all right, complete rubbish. Anyhow, there have been certain kind of fame or no, that's how I feel about it. This just is. It is going to be what it is, okay? Because there's emulation at times in regards to certain things. And I've seen it happen before. I'll see it happen again. And that really does matter. I guess, emulation in regards to certain systems, we need to be able to still be able to do that within the confines of dealing with certain kind of emulation to a certain degree. Less to do with emulation and more to do with utilization. All right, fine. Yeah. Maybe it has less to do with utilization and more to do with manipulation. All righty then. And also circumstantial. And remember, I'm not trying to blame the concepts regarding. That's, well, is that what you do? Because you don't be doing it. And if you're doing it in my name, that's kind of dang well cruddy to a certain extent. Anyhow, there's a lot of good spirits around defending it. I mean, I saw the concepts came to the defense of inspiration, multiple different things. There's a lot of different moments brought up. Some of it had to do with reputation defense and that sort of stuff, but then some of it had to do with like everyday people and even fame. To a certain degree, it was just really good to see. It was a lot of moments. There's outro sort of stuff where there was a throwing up a certain kind of, like what's your favorite video game in the first billion years of your life? What's your favorite food first 2 billion years? What's your favorite happy moment first 3 billion years? What's your favorite movie first 4 billion years? What's your, and so on and so forth in that style, to music, inspiration, and other concepts. It's not just inspiration. For me, it's inspiration to a certain extent. All right, fine. Well, that'd be why. All right, so, it's been a certain group pertaining which corresponds with the idea to utilize the merchants of myself and my information in a certain context in which saw a certain kind pretend to be me. Yeah, some might actually be me in a certain context pertaining to what ministry was needed. But I've noticed certain kind of utilization in regards to certain informationals pertaining to past, in which is I feel sanctioned. I think that there is ones that are sanctioned, and the ones that are sanctioned should not be gone after. Like you're not going to want to go after them because there's some in writing, there's some in content videos, there's some in multiple different forms, to a certain extent, for potentially some of it. Potentially. There is a potentially. And it's a just in case, because if I get back, spirit guides in the higher light say that we took a certain path, you might ask something, I might ask something, I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like they did in regards to some past moments, well, depending on certain things. I think for some of it, I think there is some, and it's in a certain context. So, not alrighty then. Well, it's just in case, but there is that sort of thing where certain kinds saw, hey, there's a certain moment here, someone brought up something, and how does it feng shui? I mean, is it just this sort of thing where it's like, oh yeah, there might be some guy in the future comes up with certain disclaimers, so it was I didn't think so for some of it. All right, for some of it, no, some of it wasn't. All right, and I'm not trying to upset the past. I'm not trying to anger. I'm just saying, and some do what they do in a certain context, but I do what I do, and others do what they do. So, 11:08. A certain kind of fame came around me last night. It was first upon a system in which, when I went to Tim's upon review, I think something changed in regards to my interaction. There were things seen and understood, and by the time I left Tim's, there have been some events taking place. For one, my cord was being affected. Spiritual cords, yeah, there might be certain things where you have like a stomach issue and you feel like your cord's kind of, some people don't notice the spiritual cord, but there's like certain things in regards to it. And I felt a certain kind of movement of it, but like more in front of the scenes, kind of other dimensional cord, not necessarily the, or either that, or I was feeling spiritual behind the scenes, like more in front of the scenes. And I think it was more in front of the scenes, not necessarily just me feeling it that way. For what's acceptable. Again, I still feel like there's a psychic activity that I'm aware of that some, normal folk aren't, in a certain manner. And sometimes it's emphasized. This day was emphasized. I don't know if it's uncommon. I think there are things like that where I feel like a certain kind of movement where I walk forward, I'm walking through my cord, and then I walk into this realm that's just a bit, fleshy and, certain kinds of like webbing, red webbing, and you'd be like, is the devil around? I don't know. Rock backwards, Alex. And that's it. Well, that was the thing of it, though. That was the kind of stuff I felt. And it was like, I walked out of the store one day. It's like, yeah, you want to go back inside? And I'm like, yeah, I think I do. I went back inside, and I'm like, is everything okay? It's like, you saw that, so now you get to see a little bit of, feng shui in regards to Jesus. It was like this. I went on the way I walked back. I felt like there was a certain kind of biblical around me. I'm just like, what is going on here? This is surreal. The energy placements. It's like, think of Christmas. You think of red and white. No, red and white, red, white, green. There. You think of Halloween. You think of orange. You think of black. You think of Easter, kind of a white. Sometimes pink. You think of a tooth fairy, kind of light blue, pink, white. Yeah, you think of movies, Indiana Jones, tan impression, right? You think of Jaws, water, sharks, right? Certain kind of impression headers. Let's keep moving. You think of E.T., you think of orange, right? You think of the kid on the bike with the moon, right? That sort of stuff. So you can see it, you think on it, but what exactly is it that makes you feel those images? It's not just visuals that you're seeing. It's not just like memory tabs, right? It's more than that. Impressions, colors, it's a certain sense that some people aren't noticing. It's called perception. And well, it's one of the perceptions. That was another perceptions they actually brought by over here, and that is true because some of our words and terms, terminology, certain spirits, and us utilized in a certain fashion where there's multiple definitions. You'll notice that there's perception one where you're noticing color, but there's also another one that's kind of like water. It's kind of like a water impression. It's like a certain kind of vision, a certain kind of sight to a certain degree. So that's another kind of perception as well too. I was wondering, it's water. I'm like, is this like, no, it can't be about that. Just because I'm afraid of sharks. I mean, it can't be about that. For freak's sake, because that's what they say. They said you were shaped that way for a reason. Something about fatherhood today as well. I'm asking for what means for God's indicated in regards to market education, etc. What means for God's pertain to fathers, the way it means for God's indicated. I created informational works in which I felt a line again be created this past couple days regarding educational works. I feel at this point in time that it's not the problem, and we understand it not to be the problem, though. Many different machinisms and experiences in this place and elsewhere. If anything, it's a decent, but we need to recognize if it isn't. I feel some are trying to blame some of the things I created yesterday, which is not the way of it, especially upon some of the realization and information that exists out there on the subject itself as well. Just because you think informational doesn't exist in regards to that, and which vindicates myself and others upon informational creation, doesn't mean you are home free. It bites in the ass at times. I feel a certain kind of culture around me this night, speaking interaction, that was stellar. At times it was said the communication wasn't perfect, but I think that was a lie. I think the communication was decent, and it felt like a certain culture that jokes around and has fun. Yeah, this sort of carefree, sort of like, we're gonna live our lives. We're not gonna let it affect us. And I think that it might be for some. I think some are utilizing certain kind of systems, maybe an emulation. Some that are trying to get people harmed by way of just living regular life. And when there's a large portion of people that are just trying to live their lives and not necessarily trying to harm people, I'm one of that kind in a certain manner pertaining to what means for God's either way, which I was but yeah, it's that sort of thing. I know this from guys are adding for defense in regards to the behind the scenes infrastructure that means God's either way, which I was needed. So it felt as though the interaction had to do with the possibility of coming up with a certain idea. The idea had to do with sports broadcast in the spirit late night show possibilities and view style shows on the concepts of earth-based character utilization. Think of panel of horror icons or even famous wizardry villainy. You have to understand some of the mindset and culture for some of it, but for others, not so. Earth-based physical culture would get a kick out of villainy panels from earth-based characterization if there would be comedic understanding and normalities in the mix given context. The idea, you think of this. You think of okay, so you get a panel of certain kind. You got Chucky, you got Freddy, you got Jason, you got Michael Myers. You also got Leatherface, right? Okay, so you think of those five, and imagine that on the panel they're cracking up jokes in a certain kind of villainy fashion. There's certain kind of violence in a certain manner, but it's fictional. And no one gets hurt. And in that sort of context, there's like, okay, yeah, that would be freaking hysterical. Imagine they just chirp out like commercials or chirp out like they watch a movie and they chirp the movie out like throughout it. That would be hysterical and awesome. But imagine that instead of that, that it's the same characters except they really kill people on television and they really do certain kinds of things like that in certain spiritual areas. That might be the case. And I know some people are like, no, that can't be it. Okay, well, spiritual violence exists, and we've seen it happen on this planet, right? We know that violence takes place physically on this physical planet Earth. Yes, we do. So what do you think other kind of cultures out there potentially? You don't think there's other physical cultures out there? What were we doing hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, and hundreds of thousands of years ago? Hundreds of thousands of years ago? Yeah, well, there was violence. There was warfare. And there's been atrocities at times, right? Okay, so why is it so unheard of that that's kind of culture would exist? And well, it's difficult to fathom because a lot of people look at it from a certain perspective because because a lot of people are looking at it and saying there is good in the world, that there is peace and prosperity. And you take a look at physical planet Earth, and a lot of it got, decent. A lot of it got better to a certain extent. You guys don't know what the hell you're doing. For freak's sake. Anyway, there's that sort of thing that exists, though, where I noticed that certain kind of violent culture exists, and it's been let know in regards to certain kind of spiritualist communities in multiple fashions. It's just one of those ones that's not let know of as often as the opposite, which is goodness and enlightenment. That speaks words. That speaks. That does in multiple regards. Our afterlife, for a large portion of physical Earth base is enlightened and good, but not necessarily. For some, you can still play violent video games. There's some people who are worried. They say, "Wait, we can't play violent video games." No, you can. In regards to certain ones, there are ones that they go real high up and try to stay away from even fictional violence. That is, I feel, a certain variable that exists. But I feel like there are ones out there and have been let know in regards to some of my experiences that I experienced down here at times, some of the bad stuff taking place, that there is immoral culture that exists, that have been using at times for some of it characterization in regards to certain characters, which we would take a look at and say, if that's real, then I can't laugh at this. Like, I can't. I literally have a difficult time in saying it. And that's some of the stuff that they probably make fun of some people with. They'd be like, "Oh my God, you can't make fun of that sort of thing." It's like, yeah, I have difficulty in regards to certain kind of violence that takes place. It's one of those things that's like, if somebody's experiencing that, then I'm having a difficult time, and that's been at times. Yeah, the idea, though, what we had was coming up with a bit of a classic, a spirit that does antics, the technical play-by-play with the bad guy, and the good spirit, the rogue chirper. These archetypes aren't new, but they synergize, and there is another archetype in the mix in which I saw this idea about creating certain shows upon entertainment. I called it the 5 calls. I created an ADHD document. Alice James is a document. It also stands for other things that means for guys needed pertaining to what was just needed, when it just needed. Talking about the ADHD. It is that sort of thing where I give it disclaimers, justifications, and advocations. I know some people are like, why are we talking about this right now? But it's one of those things that just popped up. I don't know if they utilize in a certain fashion during a certain kind of content experience to try and label me a certain kind, when there's nothing wrong with putting a certain kind of entertainment documents into play to a certain extent. That's one of them. Should be. You're the worst. You're that lazy, Well, I want those other 2 documents, the other one. There's a second one I wanted to put into play, and that's how I feel about it. So we got the Earth-based one. Okay, there it was. And if I don't, I'm adding for what means for guys needed regardless. I'm adding for what means guys needed regarding. Okay. Yeah, multiple advocations still happening, doing daily advocations, ranging from 200 to 500 to 1,000, that sort of thing. So I little bit of energy sap here. Later day, an angry feeling happened. I felt, yeah, and then later that night, certain kind of spirit came around me, and a certain kind of conflict unfolded to a certain degree. Just a bunch of different stuff happening this day on the 8th, where I saw multiple spirits trying to attack me, trying to attack certain kind of others in a certain kind of manner, spiritually speaking, in a big way. There was a certain system around me. I feel like I was protected in a certain degree, but it was heightened, and there were certain things happening. I'm wondering what happened below, because it felt like a certain kind of fame utilization, emulation in regards to certain systems. We talked about a certain kind of biblical system that was potentially affected 2 days earlier or the day previous, potentially early morning on the 8th, actually. Reminds me of certain kind of preachers, things like that. A bit different, eh? Yeah, a bit different. Now that is interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, that is interesting, Alex. That was interesting. I'm not gonna lie. On a fictional sort of interaction, I would find that like amazing. That would be like the good preacher and the bad, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they hunt monsters. They hunt monsters, huh? Yeah, one's more of like the listen, like, you know, he's the conscience, The other's more like we gotta get these, you know, we need to hire a witcher. Yeah. Okay, you're the worst. That is what you did. That was the case of this. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that'd be why. The good, the bad, and the monsters. Hmm? It's not bad faith. That preacher's a preacher, man. Yes, he is. It's a really good. It's a really good one. We should say it. You don't know why. Well, I'm going with what Main Spirit Guides indicated, and there's some people who dislike it, and that is, and I, in a fictional sort of way, I don't. I think it's awesome. That's the case of it. I love it. I don't dislike it. I think it's amazing. In another context, no. I have a difficulty with it. It depends on what it does depend on what it is. Sure. All right. Fine. I'm leaning away from that. I'm sorry. I and others from its guides are advocating for Main Spirit Guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart education, etc. Guides pertaining to soothsaying the way Main Spirit Guides needed light. I and others from Main Spirit Guides are advocating for what Main Spirit Guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart education, etc. Main Spirit Guides pertaining to the wardens that Main Spirit Guides needed and the punishment alternatives that Main Spirit Guides needed, the way I indicated. Setting that Main Spirit Guides needed, I and others from Main Spirit Guides are advocating for what Main Spirit Guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart education, etc. Main Spirit Guides pertaining to the prisoners that Main Spirit Guides needed, the way Main Spirit Guides needed. There was a certain kind of conflict that was brought up, had to do with punishment alternatives, that sort of thing. It says instead of spending 5,000 years in jail, you can spend 1,000 years documenting something in a documentary that takes place over 1,000-year span. So things like that. So there is ones like that do not, that might be fairly decent depending on what it is. But then there's other ones which is like, go into a pit of, well, no. Go to a pit. No. You know why? You would not laugh. Probably not. Yeah, so that's some of it. Some of what's been happening. So that was the 8th, the 9th. There's been a story theme in regards to myself and others, which has had to do with dinosaurs. Yeah, dinosaurs. Early morning, I played certain on Jurassic Park. There's been a thing in regards to the content experiences that I have been utilizing, that I have been experiencing at times, and also not so. I play a movie on for the spirit and just go chill out in my room, things like that. But those ones have been so said decent. That's what they say, Alex. That's what they said. You know why. They said that was the old one. Alien. We'll get there. Give us a sec. They want you to say that for a reason because then they say this. That's what they say. You think they're good guys? I think so. So that means that then. Well, why can't you go a certain direction? There's some who say, okay, well, if that's the case, then that's it. But are you certain? No, I'm not fully certain. Anyway, because that's what it said. It says you're on the opposite is what it says. It's caseless. Are you blue? Okay. And that's what they're trying to do. This is the caseless. So you do realize that there's going to be a scene in regards to that, right? You think that when you try to let know of certain things to the past in regards to certain moments to try and affect who it is that's in conflict with each other, that doesn't bite people, that there isn't a thing in regards to that? Because that was what was insinuated here in regards to a certain banner. I don't find it acceptable. I find it upsetting in regards to certain things. Certain spirit trying to do that. And again, just because that's what they're trying to portray doesn't mean that's what's taking place. And it needs to be understood that there's a lot of positivity, a lot of optimism, a lot of people's spirits defended, a lot of things that don't have anything to do with defense, a lot of things where we can live our lives. Jesus, I mean, yesterday was a decent friggin' show for showing for some of it. Yeah, I just chilled out playing video games for some of it. Yesterday, that's all I did was play video games all day. I played Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is what I played. And I'm not, there was no bravado in regards to some of the stuff that happens. I mean, yeah, there used to be in regards to some of it when there's that thing. So, there's people in the spirit that can experience that, to a certain extent. Wait, look, if you and your friends can go into a certain kind of holodeck program, set something up, you never know if in, a couple hundred years, that there's like a whole bunch of like spirit around you, a couple percentage in regards to all that is. That's fairly decent. All right, okay, yeah. Well, it is. I know there's somewhere like, we're looking for like, tell me there's like a double-digit percentage. Then, regardless, dude, a single-digit percentage in regards to all that is huge, massive. Well, all right, then fine. You don't know, it could be. Well, all right, fine. It's still big. All right, yeah. All right, fine. It's still big. That is correct. Well, all right, then fine. Just there's a lot of things like that. Those people who do remember. Oh, what? How many times have somebody watched a movie where, like, a year later they watch it again? It's like, yeah, we have it in our memory. We could actually set up the viewing and watch it from that memory if we wanted to, and then that's the case right there. Okay, but it's a certain kind of memory, Alex. What do you mean? There's a certain kind of thing, Alex. You don't know why. This is the case list. I and others from its guides are advocating for clarifications in regards to smart notification section from its guides pertaining to what we just need, This was a trap. And I don't want you to say it, Alex. Well, I'm going to tell you something, though. All right, fine. Do it that way. That's how we felt about it. Because there already is, though. I looked at the culture and how people have viewed it to a certain degree. Well, that's also why. Right there, Alex. That's a big one. That's one. Okay. There is something there. All right, fine. Yes. Okay. There's something to do with paleontology and history this day. On the 9th, November 9th, 2019. I left out multiple documents in regards to Earth-based dinosaurs. I uploaded it on the GitHub Peacekeeper account. I did multiple different things in regards to. I just left it up and we talked about it. I played I played certain kind of video games, and there was a certain kind of infrastructure that came around me, and it was just, it was both good and bad in a certain sense. I don't know what was taking place and why in regards to some of it, but I felt like there was something happening, and some of it was decent. I and others from guides are advocating for what means for guides indicated for us to advocate versus market issues. So certain kind of things happening after healing took place. There's sometimes exchanges, as well as I've noticed with perception, other kinds. Sometimes the incarnation bring forth new things, both in miraculous ways and ways understood. How is there changes in regards to some of our likes, qualities, and traits? I and others from Instagram guides are advocating for the comedy information that means just needed from the incarnations that Inspirational guides indicate in regards to smart education, etc. From Inspirational guides, we just like where Inspirational guides needed the way Inspirational guides. It's always a sally forth when you gotta like that's how I feel about a comedy. When you're trying to get what you like, this is it. When comedy chirps you out in regards to comedic, how do you try and get back and also get back in their good graces in regards to some of it? Because I've been there. I know, and this is the case list. All right, fine. Well, I'm asking personally for me, not for them. I'm just like, well, how do you do it while staying in their good graces? Is how I wanted to say it, and that's the truth. All right, well, that is correct. I mean, I kind of feel like it's how do you try to win against comedy at its own game? All right, not asking it literally. I'm asking what means for guides indicated regarding this market fishing, etc. Anyway. All right, then fine. Okay, no, it wasn't meant like that. Okay, fine. It wasn't meant like that. Jesus. All right, fine. Which bone do you have more to pick with? I don't know. I think incarnation. Fairly certain. Well, okay. Well, that would be. That's the bigger one. That would always be why. That's what they say. You don't want to go that way. You just don't want to go that way. That's how I feel about it. Look, they literally can get somebody just by way of certain comedic. That's the charm of it. All right, fine. And what would it be without comedy? For sake. Well, all right, then fine. That is correct. That is what you did. I was talking about what means for guys needed the way in which I was needed. All right, fine. You don't know why. This is the case of this. Like doing means for guides indicated running smart education, etc. Guys, move me where means for guides indicated dimensionally already. What are you doing? Anyhow, the night was full of turbulence and restlessness. But more than that, I started realizing that restlessness could pertain to certain things happening, but I was feeling it in certain ways, a psychic medium, where it was more intense, a little bit more intense, yeah. But it did feel like attack at times, I'm not going to lie, and I don't think that that always means that in regards to restlessness. In fact, that probably might be the smaller variable pertaining to experiencing certain kind of spiritual attack pertaining to restlessness. Trying and invoking of what is supposedly considered normal in some places, in which I do not find yeah, that sort of thing, where they're trying to put me on certain infrastructure, trying to make me more of a bannerman, more at level. Someone was decent. Yeah, someone was decent. There was a certain moment where it's like, listen, if you're not, like, okay, fine, you're talking to a certain kind of original creator, but when you speak in regards to certain things, you know, some people consider themselves to be the original creator, and so what do you do when they get upset about it? And it's one of those things where, you know what, I'm venting. And I'm talking, I might not even be talking to the original creator in regards to some of those comments that main spirit guides indicated. In fact, probably all vent area comments, you can't expect people not to be upset when they're placed in certain interaction, when they're being influenced, when there's spirits around, they're trying to get them, not only to get them upset, but also get others upset, and to try and influence you to get you to say certain things. So when it's all three looking that way, and you look at the amount of resources in regards to all three being, what, thousands, hundreds of thousands of spirits in regards to each one, and then you look past it, it's like, wait, it was almost millions and billions for some of it. So again, you look at that sort of thing, and even if you look at that sort of stuff where it says a huge, powerful spirit was trying to get something to have happen, you know, which one's worse? I don't know. I mean, it might be better if it was happening. All right, well, maybe not. I don't know. You tell me. But it's that sort of stuff where when you're venting and you're getting upset, like, you know, the spirit lets me know, says that my family's getting attacked. You know, and then they get me angry, but, you know, show me certain things behind the scenes spiritually. And not only myself, but others too. And then are like, why was he getting so upset? Why did he see that angry comment? How dare he? And it's like, you know, how dare you, you know, to a certain extent. All right, well, fine. You know, you can't expect people not to be upset when there's certain kind of violence spiritually happening to a certain degree. And these guys over here, they're saying, oh, well, he must not be ready to be moved somewhere because the interaction's not ready where, well, what? No. It makes no sense to say that somehow you got to stay in a certain kind of interaction area that's making it worse because it's been made worse. It makes no sense. Your logic is flawed. All right, fine. Your logic is flawed. That is correct. Your logic is flawed. And a couple of, yeah, I do have flawed logic in regards to a lot of it. Thank God. All right, well, all right, thank God. Thank God. On the subject itself, for some of it. All right, fine. Because it's just what it is. Yesterday, they did some weird stuff. Like, it felt like the power went out spiritually. You know, like that feeling when the lights go out, it's just this calm kind of energy. Well, it went like that while we still had power on. I was like, what? I felt a surge, like a spiritual surge. And even my mother noticed it in the living room. She's like, what was that? I'm like, spiritual. There's something spiritual happening. What the frig? And it felt like there was no lights. I don't know what was going on. They did something they did something. They moved in, and there was that sort of thing. Or was that, it's that sort of stuff at times, and it should not be. Again, I have multiple banners fighting each other out, fighting to a certain extent, which is why I'm not even supposed to be in this interaction area in regards to some of the fighting. Some of it I'm supposed to be placed in those good interactions where I'm experiencing decent positivity, optimism. It's difficult to be optimistic when the power goes out and then certain spirits insinuate that some shadow stuff is happening. It's like, yeah, be positive. And I have throughout moments like that. Yeah, there is. You know, angels look at it in a certain fashion. They're like, you know, they feel it's a certain look. I don't know if they feel a certain way, but they look at it for some of them in a certain way. And I know some of the humans are like, oh my God, why are you going that way? Anyway, I don't know. I'm going that way because it's a truth. There is that sort of stuff where it's like light in the darkness sort of stuff, but at times it doesn't seem like that or feel like that. At times it feels like, yeah, light in the, just snuff him out and attack him. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You know, some of the angels might be looking at this light in the darkness, but are not seeing what's actually happening for some of them. And I think it's folly. I think it's upsetting if it is. If that is what's happening, if you were told that certain angels were being shown certain things that are not actually taking place, where they're actually being attacked, would you consider that to be a problem? You'd be like, okay, fine. If it was happening, then yes, it would be a problem. But it's probably not going to happen that way. There's angels who are seeing the truth and protecting. You are correct. I don't know. This is the case. Well, all right, then fine. Well, all right, then. That was what you did. You did that. Anyway. A lot of realism stuff yesterday. Again, this thing moved from fame fame, creativity, inspiration, acting was some of it, and then it moved to realism. Magician culture was some of it, a certain kind of seriousness, Western civilization kind of culture, but there's other ones too, offshoots, which are really based upon, for some of it is, some of it, modern day, for some of it, some of it is, there's a pop of realism, and it exists. It was before. There was ones that were similar to what we would consider a certain kind of realism to be, that have been around for longer, probably before this planet, for some of it. All right, fine, all right, yeah. Potentially, maybe. No, potentially. Okay, well that's crap, Alex. You don't know why, because that's what they say. They say this. And that's what somebody's been asking, and this is one of the ones I've been doing today, is believing that good aliens exist, because they do. The Pleiadians, that sort of letting out, there is good aliens that exist, and the Greys are decent. The Greys are, I feel there's a certain kind of neutrality at times in regards. I don't know if it's neutral, but it's a certain kind, and it's not necessarily bad. It's not evil. I don't think it's evil. All right, fine. You think it's science? It's high. It's a certain high science. Yeah. All right, fine. And sometimes methodical, that sort of thing. All right, fine. And I think spiritually there is a lot of good in regards to it. That's how I feel. Anyway, I know that there's other galactic civs out there too that are decent and moral and good and caring, just. And I think there are other physical galactic civs watching this physical planet, in multiple kinds of ways. That is how I feel about it. I think that is the truth, and I feel that to be. And even if it is, I think it is. That's just my own feeling on it. It might not be. Just because I feel like it might be, it doesn't mean that that's what I'm fully believing in. Doesn't mean that that's what I'm going for. Again, someone is taking something out of context at times in regards to myself, pertaining to, how I feel in regards to certain things, and saying that that's how it needs to be feng shuied, when it's not supposed to be. I feel in a certain manner for what's acceptable, obviously. I think some are being put in certain situations where that is supposed to be what it is. So, maybe somebody take a look at it and maybe give some people a bit of leeway and, a certain kind of direction. And that would be. And they're saying it up there too. Again, multiple dimensional overlaps. So in one area where there's certain brimstone taking place and I'm interacting and feeling interaction from, doesn't mean that there's not another interaction taking place in regards to positivity and caring, compassion, multiple other areas around me in which is invoking positivity, love, happiness, peace, and prosperity. Violent video games for some of it. I'm going to beat you up in that video game and probably lose for some of it. All right, well, whatever. Is that what you're going to do? I'll turn into maybe I don't know, maybe a Royal Griffin. Maybe. Well, all right, then fine. We'll see how many times we're going to be near a windmill. Is that it? For break's sake, a windmill, huh? Okay. Anyway. Well, it was a certain moment yesterday. I might have missed it or something. All right. Look, not everybody watches this process 24/7, and they shouldn't have to for some. This is the case of this. Jesus. It made me look like an a-hole, man. For break's sake, kind of, to a certain degree. This is the truth of it. Well, correct. That's kind of how I feel. Well, all right, whatever. You are correct. Wait. No. If it's going to be utilized as the excuse that happens in regards to some of the violence taking place in certain areas, then not way down the list. All right, fine. Just down the list to a certain extent. Down the list, huh? Well, you take a look at the list and you're like, okay, yeah, all right. Well, all right, then fine. But then again, it still speaks of resources. It speaks of personnel. It speaks of structure, leadership, balance. I don't know. I don't know if it speaks of balance. I don't know. So yeah, yesterday I basically did video games all day. Again, I played Witcher 3. Did a bunch of other. No, that's pretty much what I did. I did solid verbal advocations all throughout the day, basically on the one subject, give or take, 5 or 10 advocations, which were in regards to specifics, maybe more than that. But I went with what I and other forensic guides are advocating for women, spirit guides chose for us to advocate in regards to market advocation, except for forensic guides pertaining to November 10th, 2019, the Women's Needed. I and others women's guides are advocating for what women's guides chose for us to advocate versus market efficiency, etc. Once you guys pertaining to November 11th, 2019, the Women's Needed. All right, then fine. There's also some, I noticed a certain kind of storyline having to do with treadmill spirits, certain kind of antic spirits yesterday, and that's it. That was the truth. I don't get how that works. You don't get how it works, Alex. You'll see why. You'll see why it works this way. It's not about bravado. It hasn't. Less than 5 times. The sort of thing that says that certain spirit in the vicinity in a certain area, doing bad stuff, where it's like all the good spirit would just, because out of the way of bravado, that sort of stuff. I think less than 5 times. I think so. Most of the time, if not all the time, it's been about safety and quality of life. That's what it's been about. And happiness. You are correct. Safety, quality of life, and happiness. Those are the 3. Yeah. So there's a better way you can say it. That's what they say. They say that. Ways of life. There we go. 4 ways of life, happiness, quality of life, safety. And it when we say ways of life, in regards to some of us, it's encapsulating what means for God's indicated. Same with quality of life. It's encapsulating what means for God's indicated. Quality of death. It is. When we say, that's the truth of it. All right, fine. As we're living, aren't we? All right. Well, there's a certain thing. Well, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. I would understand it before you do something. All right, fine. You were playing the shallow, and pedantic. Yeah, trying to. All right, fine. Well, whatever then. Not saying that he was. No, I was not saying he was. I was saying I was, but I'm walking away from it. All right, fine. You don't know why, because that's the case. That's what they say. Yeah, well, those that are doing things in regards to myself that I'm not sanctioning and that my main spirit guides are not sanctioning, not acceptable in the ways that main spirit guides need to pertain to what main spirit guides need in regards to market efficiency, etc. Guides. Like, you should display that the way main spirit guides indicated, but hey, Anyway, that's basically what it's been on my end. It's just, it's getting better. It's gotten better every day. This is the real truth. It used to be worse. And argumentatives should still be facilitated in the ways Main Street need. Potshot comments should still be facilitated in the ways Main Street need. 3-4 days ago, vent area conversations should still be facilitated in the ways Main Street needed. That's kind of how I feel about it. I know there's friends guys are advocating for what means for guys chose for us to advocate in regards to market efficiency that your guys pertaining to master tradition issue discussions. That's means for guys needed pertaining to October 2019 and November 2019, especially on the Wednesdays that means for guys needed the women's guys needed. Whoa. Whoa. Light. I'm going with what means for guys indicated.